if someone finds an object, say a book in a library, that explains how to travel back in time, then this person decides to help themselves out by going back in time to place this book in the library where they'll find it easily. We end up with a premise that creates a loop. The book exists because the person who found it places it there, but they only find it because it was put there. So where did the book actually come from? This is an example of the bootstrap paradox. An interesting twist on narrative psychology that is very clever with its framing. The truth of the matter is that the book in my example was created originally, but it was conveniently left out of my framing. The paradox in question centers around the loop of finding the book and placing it so you'll find it in the past. But it fails to mention that in order to even create a circle, you kind of do have to start somewhere. Imagine that the time loop is like a circular racetrack, with a starting line somewhere outside the circle part. Kind of like this amazing picture I drew. Here you can see the time loop, and here you can see the entry point into the loop. This entry point represents the book's creation point. Somebody wrote the book, and then released the book into the wild for somebody else to find. Once the book gets released into the wild, it enters the circle, and now that the book has entered the time loop, it can go around and around as many times as it wants. The bootstrap paradox conveniently leaves out the context about the entry point into these theoretical time loops, because it's an easy thing to forget. When you frame the entire premise with just the time loop, it's actually very understandable to fall into the logical loop that occurs. If you just follow the logic of the premise, then you also end up going in circles. So while I can't fault people for never really recognizing that the circular path has an entrance, I am going to fault the paradox for not putting up any warning signs. This bit of philosophy, or I don't know, science fiction, it's more accurate. It's kind of neat as a narrative device for stories, but the reality is that there's no such thing as existence without origin. Everything has to start somewhere, because there can't be a journey without a beginning.